right. Well, I want to welcome everyone to this webinar, this info session, and just thank you for being here and for your interest in our program. We have a program that I think is quite distinctive in terms of a couple of issues. Number one, if you enter our doctoral program, you have the assurance that we're going to support you and carry you through. In fact, in the cohorts that have come through this program so far, 100% of the people who finish coursework also will complete the doctorate. And that's pretty remarkable because nationwide, it's about 50%. So 50% of people that start a doctoral program typically will get their coursework done, and then they start their dissertation and they never finish it. So they get all this coursework done, but never actually complete the doctorate. And our program is different because we actually embed the dissertation into the program. What we see is that people who finish their coursework actually finish the program. We don't have those, what we call ABD, which are all but dissertation people out there. And that just reflects a real commitment to serving and supporting every student that comes into our program. So there is and we have a commitment to faith integration, to diversity. These are things that are reflected along the way in all of our coursework. So I just want to thank you for your interest and thank you for being a part of this information session. As we go forward, we're going to have some of our faculty members and we have some current students that are going to be talking with you about what it's like, the experience of being in this doctoral program. And as we move forward, I would just ask if you can all be sure to mute your camera or your Zoom so that we can focus. And then also just save your questions. We do have a time for questions and answers at the end. So just if you have a question, you can write it down and we will get to that at the end. So thanks very much for being here. And I'm going to shift it to Dr. Pletko, who's going to speak now. I'm going to actually stop my share so that people can see your face. You can go to speaker view. Dr. Pletko will talk a little bit about the program and why you get a doctorate in the first place. What is the stage that you're at when you're looking at this? So go ahead, Dr. Pletko.
Thank you, Dr. Kula. Good afternoon, everybody. It's great to see new faces and a few familiar faces and even a couple names that I recognize from past times and districts. And so it's nice to see you all and thank you for coming together. I see Dr. Rosso is here as well. And as you enter the program, you will, of course, get to meet everybody and make those personal connections. But I'll start just by saying thank you for being here on a Friday afternoon, and I hope you've had a great week. That first overarching question of why a doctorate? Well, it might help you get a reservation at a restaurant. That's possible, but that would not be the lead one. Although if that ever works for you, we have a community forum that you've got to share that it actually works. So nonetheless, on a bigger perspective, I think that as we all got into education, that mindset, the author, Michael Fullan, educational author and leadership author Fullan, talks about the role and how important it is to be a lead learner. What is it to be a lead learner? And that's his phrase. And I think that as we go along in our careers, there are these markers in time where we begin to look at ourselves and say, okay, how am I advancing who I am as a lead learner? And what does that look like? And so I think to start with that experience of attaching yourself again to academic work is really special. Over the past 5 years, as we've had our cohorts in the program grow and we've learned, so many of them now, as they've completed, have been able to reach back to us and talk about the process and what it meant to them and how it infused them with this new energy and this new excitement for their field. Whatever it is that they're working on. And I think that's one of the byproducts of it that's so important is what is that knowledge, that new energy? That's one. A second area is you come together in a cohort fashion. I know Dr. Kula was talking a little bit about the power of being together in a cohort. And we know them by AZ20, AZ19, Azusa 18, all our cohorts. There are these families that have come together to do this doctoral work. And I think one of the things that they all find as they get through is they really do become a family. You're going to make professional connections with people who come from all over Southern California in new and powerful ways. I see some of them now who are our original group who have now joined each other in districts. An opportunity happened and they had an opportunity to know somebody well, and they reach out to someone and say, hey, would you like to join? Well, there's power in that because you've worked side by side with each other through this academic journey now, and now the ability to do that. I see Matt Brummett, who's on here, and Matt, wave your hand so he's right there. There's Matt. Matt is someone who, because of the program too, has met new people and new opportunities, and now he sits as principal at Glendora High School, which is a wonderful opportunity, and just those chances. So I think that's a big part of that doctoral journey, and why. I would say on a personal note, just looking back, it was life-changing to go through that. And I paused because I didn't want to overstate or understate. It was really life-changing to go through that process when I did. And you're going to hear from a few people who are in it now, and I think they would share the same. So that's that first part. Who is our program for? I think that's one of the beauties of our program in particular is sometimes people hear, I'm getting my doctorate, so well, that person must want to be a superintendent, or that person must want to. That's not the way our program's built. Our program's built for, if you want to be a teacher leader, then we want you in our program, because we need, as a principal, if I'm thinking of being a principal, I need teacher leaders on my campus. We're solving textbook adoptions. We're solving coming back to school in COVID. We're solving all kinds of great challenges that I want the best teacher leaders I can possibly have around me. And so whether you're a teacher at a charter school, at a regular K-12 or a private school, all the way up through, we do have people in our program who are acting superintendents now who want to get their dissertations. And I think that when we think about our program, that's one of the beauties of it, because you are sitting on a Saturday and having conversations with all different people who are bringing all these different bright and healthy perspectives to work. And so rarely are you ever in a conversation where you don't have an aha moment, like, I didn't really think of it that way. And that's important. So I think that eclectic ability of our people is really important as we do that. Why APU? Well, I'm biased. I admit that. I got to be a part of the beginning part of how we were going to build this program and what we are and who we are going to be. But I think the biggest part is APU is there for you. This is an advanced doctoral degree. And in that, you want to do that with people who want to walk alongside the journey with you, not people who say, I need help. Well, okay, my office hours are this or this. We have professors in the program that when you say you need help, they're there. It's like, well, do we need to talk right now? How much help do you need? How do we get that? Where does that go? And I think that style of interaction, that personability style, the building of cohorts that are family-based in nature, and of course, all of that through the Christian perspective in a godlike, thoughtful manner of how we approach our work and how we approach each other, and the grace that we afford and provide one another, I think is an important part of going through a journey like this too. And so I think that the other, I would just one more. So that's the style of the human, the heart style that we're talking about, or how important that is at APU. But then I'll be practical for a second too and say this: we get the job done too. When you look at our cohorts from that very first cohort, as Dr. Kula mentioned, to where we are now, every single one of the students who walk in are exiting with their doctoral degree. And that's the three famous words that Dr. Kula mentioned: A, B, D, all but dissertation. That's the last place you want to be. You did all the coursework, but you didn't finish. APU has been able to put together a program that is embedded in such a way that you'll finish and you'll be really proud of your work, and you'll do it with friends, lifelong friends, that you'll make in a new way. So I'll pause because I know there's a lot more to talk about today. But as I'm trying to mark all your faces, because typically mine is the first class that you take as entering first year students. And so I'm hoping all your faces are there because it's wonderful. We just this year's group is AZ20 is full speed ahead right now. In fact, we were interacting last night on some things, and so I'm really proud of the work they're doing, and we'll be just as proud as all of you as well. So, Dr. Kula, I'll turn it back to you. Dr. Kula,
There we go. Yep, I got it. So for those of you who may have joined us midway through when Dr. Plotko was speaking, so this is one of our superintendents in residence, and I will get to what that means in just a bit. And he does, as he mentioned, teach the very first course that you actually take on the very first day at 8 a.m. sharp. Early risers. We have to be early risers, at least on the Saturdays that we have classes. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the structure of the program now, and I'm going to share my screen again because I have a slide on this that will help for those of you who are visual learners or who enjoy seeing things with their own eyes. All right, so our program, once it loads, so we have a 51 unit program, and when we say that's 3 years of a dissertation embedded program. And what that means is that you actually get dissertation units, you get course units that you spend developing your dissertation over the course of those 3 years. And we really do start day one talking about the dissertation. So those 51 units, I'm going to kind of break them down for you. We have a 1 unit kind of orientation course, and then the 50 units that are left are divided in this way. So leadership courses, that's K-12 leadership, constitutes 25 units of the program. So half basically of your program is spent looking at K-12 leadership. And the leadership courses are taught by our superintendents in residence mostly. Dr. Plotko being one of those superintendents in residence. So we have leaders who are active in the field, who understand the current issues and trends that are going on and are able to speak from their years and their expertise and their experience as well. After those 25 units of leadership courses, we have 12 units of research tools courses. So this enables you to actually have the tools needed to take to actually enact your study, to do the research itself. And then we have 13 units of dissertation milestone courses. And these are courses where you receive instruction and support and time in your day to actually write your dissertation. Our courses are all what they're called blended. So they have a face-to-face component and an online component. Technically, it's supposed to be 60% face-to-face and 40% online. So that 60% face-to-face occurs on Saturdays. We have 16 Saturdays per year, and you know a whole year in advance when those Saturdays are, so you can do your best to schedule your life around those Saturdays. We typically will go from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m., which means you have a full day of classes. And yes, you're tired at the end of those days, but you're also energized. And there are a lot of people that talk about the fact that the days really don't seem as long as they are. But I will say this also, the fact that we meet 16 Saturdays a year, and I'll just break that down, that's 6 Saturdays in the fall, 6 in the spring, and then 4 in the summer, summer being May and June. So you have July and August pretty much off, though we encourage you to keep working on your dissertation during that time. So those 16 Saturdays, because there's 2 or 3 weeks between your classes, your face-to-face portions of your classes, people will often come from quite a distance. We've had people come from San Diego because you just make the drive, spend your day there, and then you're able to go back home for 2 to 3 weeks before you have to make that trip again. And the rest of our time is spent online. So we'll have online discussion forums. readings, videos, things like that that will round out the education you receive there. So that's the kind of the breakdown of the program and what you go through. It does occur over 3 years. So, and by that I mean a full fall, spring, and summer semester. So it is your third summer where you typically would end the program and have your final class. So that is, I'm going to come back and stop my share. So that's how the program is structured, more or less. And we have found that this blend of leadership, research tools, and dissertation embedded milestone courses really works to support students in ways that are that they get the dissertation done, as we said. They have the tools needed to really create a robust study that has impact in the field. And then they have this time with the superintendents and residents who have that key experience and expertise in the field. So it's particularly powerful. And I also want to say that in developing this blend of courses, we actually consulted superintendents in the area to ask, what does a doctorally prepared student need to know and be able to do? What kind of skill set do they need? And so this really reflects input from researchers as well as superintendents in the area. And it has been really just a powerful model for our existing cohorts. And then I think we'll be able to move forward. The next thing is Dr. Rosso about what makes the APU experience unique. So Dr. Rosso is one of our full-time faculty members. He teaches a lot of the dissertation milestone courses where it takes you through some of the writing, particularly in developing your first couple of chapters of the dissertation, or drafting them at least. And then he also teaches a course on ethics, which comes at the end of the time. So you heard from Dr. Plutko, who would be one of your very first professor. Dr. Rosso would want to be, he actually teaches in the initial, he'd probably be the second face you see, but you'd also see him at the very end. So Dr. Rosso, if you want to unmute yourself and
Sure.
Talk about what makes the APU experience unique.
And I want to clarify, Dr. Plutko, technically I am the first professor, because that first Saturday morning I'm on at 8 and you're not on until 10. Okay, so you're the second, I'm the first. Okay, so it's just but there we go. Just as long as we got that taken care of, it's yeah. Thanks so much for coming and your interest in this program. And to start a doctorate is not something to take lightly, and to start a doctorate at APU, a university that's had a history for 121 years. That's an English major trying to add the number since 1899. 121 years of having God first and being a Christian university. So some things that make our experience unique at APU and specifically in the doctoral program is, one is this aspect that we call faith integration, and this is not unique to APU. The majority of Christian universities will propose to have some level of faith integration, but at the doctoral level, what that means is that we encourage our students from the front end of things to consider, how does your faith, and more specifically, how does the Christian faith apply to the problems you see in society, the problems you see in education? How does your Christian faith, or how can the Christian faith impact you in your day-to-day life, in the stresses of working on a doctorate? We don't apologize for being Christian, but on the other hand, we welcome people if they're not currently Christian believers. But like anyone who has a belief, we're convinced that, I remember Charles Colson and Rick Warren did a video probably 20 years ago on worldview, and Chuck Colson, late Chuck Colson. He said, we don't adhere to a Christian worldview because it's in the Bible. We adhere to a Christian worldview because it's the one worldview that really works. So we want to help you along the way. We aren't going to work with you like perhaps undergrad students, where we're going to come and ask you about your daily lifestyle and what you're doing, but we are concerned about your lives. And we're constantly hearing from students and checking with students to see what's going on. How can we pray for you? How can we help you? Faith integration isn't just trying to get you to integrate your faith, but hopefully you'll see that for us as faculty members, that our faith is integrated in how we work and how we practice and how we connect with students. It's more than just me being a nice guy, because I'm not always a nice guy, depending on my feedback on your papers. But it's really caring and trying to help you make the decisions in your degrees and your research and later on your profession that will best equip you to impact the lives of others, to help students, while also balancing that with, okay, what about your family? Okay, I've been working with doctoral students for, I think, 16 years now, and I've seen too many doctoral students who start in a program that has a faith integration component, but somewhere in the mix of things, they, not only does life happen, but their focus to finish this degree, no matter what the cost, destroys relationships. And so we're going to encourage you along the way to not do that. We're going to also encourage you on the front end, when you consider research, that research is more, the purpose of a doctorate is more than just trying to succeed professionally, but the purpose of a doctorate is to find ways to help the most needy, those who can't help themselves. In the book of James, it says that true religion is to live a godly life and to help the widows and the orphans, to help those that are marginalized in society. So we'll also take a special look at ethics and research, that you don't do what's just ethical just so you pass, but you're so aware of the impact of your research on people. With that experience then comes, and in each course, we actually, there are elements specific to each course where your faculty members will ask you, okay, consider this for a moment from your own faith perspective, or now look here what scripture might say. Is there an answer here that we need to unpack in light of this topic we're dealing with? So that's one element of faith integration. But another element of faith integration has already been alluded to in a couple of times, is your close interaction with the chair and your dissertation chair, who's also your mentor from an early point in the program. I'm in my 6th year at APU and taught at another Christian university for 15 years. And one of the things I especially love about this program is, starting your 2nd year in the program, you are required to meet with your chair 3 to 4 times a semester. And that helps you, but it also builds a relationship that you feel the support, versus just once a semester, hey, what about that paper? We have a lot smaller groups, which means the cohorts, we've had one group, I think was 16, but all of our others we aim for about 12. And that again gives individualized attention, but it gives a partnership among your peers. And then it's also mentioned about this balance of faculty members. It's not just the balance between the practitioners and the full-time faculty. It's a real diverse faculty in our backgrounds and how we think and what we bring to the table. So we hope that the APU experience is something that will ring true to you, that you would say, this is for me. I'm looking for a group of faculty members and fellow students that will come alongside and encourage and partner with me in this program. And I realize I stopped 5 minutes early, but I think I started 5 minutes early. So
that's totally fine. It actually, I think we'll need that time in the back end with questions and answers, as well as just a little more time for our students to speak. So we have 2 current students on right now. One is Matt Brummett, and I'm going to have you, Matt, speak first. Matt you are in your third and final year, aren't you? So he has actually collected data for his dissertation. He's engaged in the final rounds, I think, of data analysis, getting ready to write his chapters 4 and 5. So he will be able to speak kind of from that perspective of a student who's in that third year, rounding the bend, and what that student experience is like. And then we have Michelle Bangara, who is in her second year. So she is just beginning her second year. She's pulling together her proposal. I'm actually her chair. An excellent proposal, I must say, that is shaping up. And so both of them are going to talk with you about their experiences in the program. And Matt, can we have you talk first? Now, Dr. Plutko talked about the fact that you have actually become the Glendora High School principal during your time here. And we do, by the way, see that often, that people who enter our program will actually advance during their time in the program or shortly thereafter. So Matt is just one example of that. But go ahead, Matt, and talk about your own experience for a few minutes in this program.
Sure. Can you hear me okay? Great. Yeah, just can't believe it's the third year already. In the beginning, they'll tell you it goes by really fast. And when you're sitting there, it seems like the end of the tunnel is very far away, but it's hard to believe that I am in my third year, and hopefully we'll be defending in the spring, God willing. But the doors that have opened because of my participation in this program, obviously been mentioned, became a principal this summer. I would attribute a lot of that to the connections that were built in this program. You look at programs around Southern California, and I think you can make a very strong argument that the faculty, the superintendents, and just the faculty in general in the program is probably the strongest. And so I've had 3 jobs in 3 years, all promotions, and this most recent one definitely attributed to my participation in the program. But I think why you're here today is because you're interested in growing as a leader, or for whatever reason it might be. I believe that this program has whatever you need to make it work for you. And I can speak from a personal and professional perspective just real quick. Personally, when you're looking for a program, you wonder how it's going to impact you and your family, if you have a family, or just you in general as a person. Time, commitment, structure, and knowing that you get 6 Saturdays a semester, and in my opinion, is one of the nicest models out there. That's not every week. It gives you time between classes to do assignments at your own pace. But if you have a family, it also limits the impact, because there's other programs that will have you meet weekly, for 6 hours in a night, and you're getting home and you're going to work the next day. The model of the Saturdays has been tremendous for me personally and for my family. It's made me a better family man. So this program really helps define your values as a person, not just as a leader. And you'll do a lot of that in your first year. And I would say, I think my wife might say too, that I've grown a lot as a person because of this program. And here's the other thing. Life's never going to stop, right? So you might say, is this the right time for me to do a program? Now's the right time, because life is going to continue on no matter what. So I'll give you an example. My wife and I had our second child between my first year and second year in the program. I've taken on new jobs. So life's going to continue to go. And this program provides that support to help you. And it really does fit any type of a need you might have personally. And I found that. And people I've talked to as well. So those milestones in your life are going to happen no matter what. And so this program provides that structure and support to make you achieve those goals. Professionally speaking, I talked a little bit about the networking that presents itself, obviously through the faculty. But I will say you do spend some time, as an introspective leader, especially in your first year. You become a better leader. You understand your values and define your values a little bit more. You become a better writer. Just as a professional, like all of these components that you learn in the program, they come together in these 3 years just to truly make you a more complete leader. So you might walk into this program having some idea of what you stand for or what you really believe in. But this makes you dive really deep. And when you're doing these assignments, you're doing the hard work, you see the result, you see the outcome of yourself becoming stronger and more confident and more capable. We talk about the faith integration in the program, regardless of where you stand with your faith, the opportunity to explore that component has been really beneficial for me as I've grown in my faith. It's strengthened definitely. And then here's the other thing. You talk to people in doctoral programs and they'll talk about theory a lot. And there's nothing more annoying than people talking to you only about theory. I'm just going to be honest with you. What I really like about this program is every single faculty member that has presented theory, we talk about how you put it into practice. So when you look at all these great theories that are out there for leadership, or you read about them, you take all of the faculty has taken the time to say, here's a scenario, like apply this theory here. What would you do? And so it really does make you a better leader. And I think there's really, really inherent value in that theory to practice model that's taken in a lot of the classes. And then the last thing I'll say is the cohort and how valuable that is. So when you sign up for this program, you will walk into an orientation and probably not know many people or any people at all. That was my situation. I didn't know anybody in the cohort. And now I'm a principal at a school where 2 of my cohort members have kids that go to school here. But aside from that, have gained some really, really good friends. We're very diverse, but we have a group text message chain that goes on. We're sending each other gifts and memes throughout the weeks to keep each other laughing, especially during this tough time. We're organizing each other. Here's what's due and when. And they really do become your second family. And when you're facing those tough moments where you're like, man, this is hard, I got to get through this, they give you that extra push. And so all the facets of this program, I don't think you could beat it anywhere. I really don't. So, you take into account the personal, professional, you wrap it all together with the networking. It's the total package, and it's the best thing, and educationally to ever happen to me. So I would preach that to the cows come home. This is a fantastic program, and I'm fortunate to be a part of it.
Thank you so much, Matt. All right, and then we have Michelle. Now, Michelle, I actually really enjoy the fact that we have these 2 students because Matt is an administrator, and a lot of people looking at a K-12 educational leadership doctoral program would think that's for administrators, but Michelle is one of our teachers who has come into the program, and I really was enjoying the fact that she volunteered to do this because she can give that perspective of why a teacher and what a teacher actually would get out of an educational leadership program. So Michelle, thank you very much for being here. Go ahead and take your turn as well.
Thank you. So I'm glad I got the opportunity as well, because like Dr. Kula was saying, a lot of times when you go into doctoral programs, the diversity, not just in terms of, gender and race, but in terms of role, can be lacking. And I will tell you, so I feel like I am not as prepared as Matt was, but I had 3 things that I would talk about that Dr. Rosso actually mentioned, Dr. Kula mentioned, and then Matt mentioned too, is diversity, the community, and then the academic part of this program. And all of those were completely important to me. I did interview for other doctoral programs and went through the entire interview process at other very highly regarded educational institutes. And after I interviewed with Dr. Kula, I called my dad and I said, no, actually, I think I want to go to APU. And, because I had gone to USC before and I was applying for, USC, UCLA, all these other their programs, he was like, whatever you think will best fit whatever your goals are. And it's because of the interview process, which hopefully you guys all decide to go through so you can make your informed decision. For me, the complete just difference in that process is what made my decision. And I actually called him on my way home from that. And one of the questions I asked in my interview to Dr. Kula was, what was the diversity of the program? And she went through a couple of those things. And being a classroom teacher, There are 3 of us in our program who are current classroom teachers. It is an amazing opportunity to get perspective from district employees, from administrators in our program, and from teachers, and then from varying districts. I happen to come from a highly resourced district. We have administrators and teachers and district personnel from a variety of backgrounds. And so that was a very important aspect, because the knowledge you gain from your peers during your classroom instruction is going to be extremely beneficial to any academic pursuit you have. And so I found that. And you only find that, and you're only able to take advantage of that when there is community built into the program. So that is one of the reasons that I actually chose APU over another program that I thought was my first choice, is because I felt that sense of community, which I had not felt in an academic institution for a long time. So like Matt was saying, these are the people who support you, and they want you to succeed as much as you want to succeed. And then they help you to do that in terms of organization and encouragement. And then your doctoral staff and your professors will do that as well. I've had Dr. Rosso and Dr. Kula, and they are as invested in you finishing your doctorate as you are in finishing your doctorate. And part of that is twofold. They're both extremely experienced, as is everyone in the program, in terms of who you'll have as a professor. And for me, coming from a very academic institution at USC and being really academically challenged there, I wanted that as well. You will get it at APU. And so you want a program that's going to challenge you and push you, and you will learn a whole new skill set at APU through your professors. I happen to get to work with Dr. Kula closely because she's my chair and methodologist. And that is one of the selling points, is, you know, very experienced. I cite her from multiple published research for mine, because that is the quality of professor that you're going to get. And so part of that is your professors really do understand and get to know you. This isn't a program of anonymity. They really take an intense personal pride in understanding and knowing and being part of your cohort. And so even when we're getting our chair and methodologist, I feel like everyone in our program was paired with who they were meant to have and who could best support them academically in a very rigorous way so that their research makes a meaningful impact. I have Dr. Kula because she can really add to my dissertation, because I'm working with a specific ethnic group, and she has published in that. And where else are you going to get that, where you're so perfectly paired with someone who can make your research really strong and something that will add to your community? So that's the part that I wanted to really express, because academics and rigorous academics to me are extremely important. Especially as a classroom teacher. You know, I have that high expectation in my own classroom with my kids in a very high achieving district. And so for myself and for my background, that was something that I did not want to compromise on. And you get into a position almost where you feel as if you have to choose one or the other. Am I going to choose a place that has community and that creates this sense of we are in this together and belonging and we support and encourage each other? Or am I going to choose this very academic institution at the sacrifice of that? And like Matt kind of mentioned in his, this is the most well-rounded program that I came across, because you get that sense of community, you get that personal relationship with your professors who are invested in your academics and your leadership capabilities and your research and your ability to finish your doctorate and meet the goals you set for yourself. But you also get their academic experience and knowledge. And so, I mean, I can't say enough good things about the program. I've really enjoyed it. There are times, obviously, there is a balance you have to manage, but because of that sense of community and because of the investment you have from your professors, the managing of this program is 100%, I feel like, feasible for anyone. And that's something that, like Matt said, you have to take into consideration, because you want to do your job well, you want to do your family well, and then you want to do this program well. Sorry, I'm teaching from school, so there's my bell. But I will say that those three things are really important. I did want diversity of who I would be in a cohort with. so I could gain from their experience. I did want to make sure that there was some sense of community where you felt that there was real purpose behind what you were trying to do, and they could help you draw that purpose out. And they definitely do that through the leadership aspect of the program and those courses. And then the academic part was just personally very important to me. And I feel like all three have really been met in the program.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Michelle. All right. Well, I'm going to now share my screen again because we're going to go over some of the more technical pieces of this program. I'm going to not share. Sorry. I need to present. Okay. So I need to get out of this and present. There we go. All right, so what does it take to actually be admitted? So we're going to get to those more technical aspects here. The deadline in terms of getting your, let's see, okay, Michelle, thank you so much. Michelle said she has to leave, she has to go teach. So thank you for being here. All right. Getting back to this. So in terms of admission requirements, we have a priority deadline, which means that you can be considered for all our scholarships of May 1. And this will be 2021. So you are early, and I want to congratulate you for being early to looking at this process. The regular deadline is June 1. So those are the two big dates that you should have circled on your calendar if you're interested. There is a graduate application for admission, and we can provide you with all these links here. There's a $45 non-refundable application fee, but for those of you who are here in this webinar, we have a application fee waiver code. You'll see it right under there, SOE 21, which should be fairly easy to remember. School of Education is what SOE stands for, and 21 would be your admit year. So that if you enter that in, when you are prompted, you will actually have that $45 fee waived, which is very nice. You will have to provide official transcripts and 2 letters of recommendation. And I want to say you do have to contact your previous institutions and ask for those official transcripts. We do not take just like screenshots or anything like that, or a PDF that you can pull down yourself. We have to get these from the institutions themselves. And then you want these 2 letters of recommendation. Now you can actually put in 3 letters of recommendation, but we require 2. And these 2 have to be from either current or former supervisors. So pick carefully who you'd want to ask to write a letter of recommendation. There is a form for that letter. So we basically, when you provide their email, the system sends them an email with this form to fill out. So they're not just writing from scratch. They do have prompts that they will speak to, and it helps them, it's not as onerous a process, I guess. Then this next one, evidence of 5 years of relevant professional experience. So we really, because we're talking about what happens in schools from a leadership perspective, it really helps. As Michelle said, that community and those conversations where you are able to glean from your cohort members. If you understand at least or have a basic level of experience in K-12 public schools, it really helps the whole cohort to have more elevated conversations. And so we really like to recruit people who have just a good amount of time in schools. So some kind of professional experience within public K-12 is really desirable. We will ask for your current professional resume, and I have to say, keep that up to date. Sometimes I see that people have not updated their resume in 3 or 4 years, so make sure that it looks good, make sure that it's current. It's very helpful for us to see that professional experience through your resume. There will be a letter of intent. It's a 5 to 7 page letter talking about your professional goals, your academic goals, and some of the reasons why you're choosing our program. That will take some time to put together, possibly. So we just encourage you to start that process now if you are looking at trying to be admitted and applying. We will also ask for an academic writing sample. Some of you possibly have not been in school for a long time. It may be actually really difficult to go back. If you've been out of school for 10 plus years, it may be difficult to go back and pull out an old paper, but we would ask that you try. So just, if you can go back to, maybe you backed up a computer back in the day, try to pull out some of those writing samples. Sometimes you can actually, there will be a repository somewhere at your university. If there's a real problem with getting an academic writing sample, sometimes we can actually take a professional writing sample in lieu of that. We really like to see at least some evidence of your academic writing, though, if possible. So you can start pulling that together. We'd like to see a valid California certificate of clearance or some kind of credential from the CTC, so that we can verify that you are that you've been in the K-12 arena. And then we will have an admissions interview, which Michelle talked about being so instrumental to her decision to come, which I actually didn't know until she said that. So that was just a very interesting little tidbit from her. So this is kind of the admissions process. You submit all your materials, and you have, once you open up an account with our admissions department, you can just upload things one at a time as you create them. So that stays open until you have completed all of these requirements. So you don't necessarily need to pull them together just yourself. You can actually have an account where you've uploaded things as you get them. In terms of cost, here's the big, rolling admissions. Thank you. So we do admit, let me put it this way. So we start every cohort in September at the beginning of the fall. So we don't have any cohorts that will start spring, or we don't have a summer start. Everyone starts in the fall, but we will admit you as soon as you finish this process. You could actually be admitted in November, December, January. We have admitted people in January, February for the coming cohort. So as soon as you get materials in, we review them, we interview, and we make decisions usually within a week of the interview, so that you know precisely where you're at. So this is what's called a rolling admission process. We don't wait and then select, at the point where May 1 hits. We'll just kind of, whenever you apply is when we'll make a decision on a case-by-case basis. Okay, so back to cost. Currently, we're at $1,077 per unit, a nice round number. So over the course of 51 units, that's $54,927 that you would be expected to pay over those 3 years. There are some opportunities for scholarships. We have scholarships for people who have shown leadership potential. We have some scholarships that for people who have particular academic potential that they've demonstrated. And then there's some other School of Education based. They're not program based. They're actually a department or the school based scholarships that you would have to apply separately for. So there are some opportunities for scholarships in there, but we also, I have to say, have a really robust financial aid program, and our financial services works with students individually to try to create a package that makes it affordable for them. So I think the rest is just, we're now to a question and answer period. So we had some questions that were sent in. Let me stop the share. We had some questions that were sent in already that I want to talk about. Number one, are there any modifications to the program based on the COVID-19 pandemic? Matt, you want to unmute and talk about what it's been like during COVID-19?
Yeah. So this program when I first started was face-to-face for classes. And then in the spring, we pivoted to online. So the class sessions are now online until further notice. But as far as like how it's impacted the program and its quality itself, I would say not too much at all. Like we know that you're able to deliver information through video conference that would be similar to in-person breakout rooms, et cetera. Where I would say it's impacted some of those in my cohort is with data collection. We've had to redefine how and what, and I was sort of lucky, and I've talked to Dr. Kula about this, that in my IRB, which is part of the process of getting the approval to go out and collect data, that I had put this caveat of virtual interviews if necessary. So I'm doing a qualitative study, and just got super lucky. Like it was before COVID was even like on the radar. And so others have had to kind of redefine how their study is going to look. But the support in helping get my cohort mates through data collection or getting up and running even right now has been instrumental in their success. So it's definitely impacted it, but I have a friend that just began in year 1 and he's loving the program, even with the Zooms. But someday I would imagine with the cohort that you would be starting in, that day will come where you're face to face. So that's kind of it. Nothing major in my opinion, other than having to adjust the data collection a little bit for some of the people in my cohort.
So yeah, that's basically the story. And we are planning to go back to those face-to-face sessions as soon as we are cleared to do so by the county. So we're just kind of waiting for the word. When we get out of this purple area that we're in back into red or orange, the county will clear us. And so that's what we're just kind of waiting on. But yeah, those synchronous sessions, the Saturday sessions, we've just gone to Zoom classes. So there was a question about taking transfer units from different programs. So if you have gone to a different doctoral program and are thinking to transfer, we have typically taken transfer units if there are similarities with the classes that we offer and classes you've taken. Those are totally done on a case-by-case basis. So I can't guarantee the number of units or which units would transfer. We would just have to look at the transcripts and do an evaluation of what's compatible with our current program. Oh, here we go. I'm back. Where did I leave off? Did you hear all of what I said? We just have to take it on a case-by-case basis is what I was saying. Okay. All right. The next question, how many courses per session? Okay, so you typically take 3 to 4 courses per semester. There's an exception in the summers. In the summers, you're just taking 2 courses, 1 or 2 courses. But typically 3 to 4 courses per semester will be taken across the program, running from 8 a.m. typically to 6 p.m. Is it recommended that an applicant have a specific number of years before applying? You actually just heard about that, so I will skip that question. Financial aid options. We do have scholarships. There's obviously all the Pell Grant, Cal Grant kind of things, and loans that are available. So I don't deal with financial aid specifically. So our financial services division would be the people that they do work really well with students to figure out those kinds of options. In terms of the start date, like I said, we always start in the fall semester. So our courses usually start the Saturday after Labor Day. So that gives you your initial start date. But the semester officially begins like a week and a half before our first Saturday. And you do have some professors that will require reading prior to that first face-to-face session. So you have to understand that that'll probably be coming up for you. Let's see here, structure of the classes. So I had talked about that. I think that there would be no questions on that. Okay, I think at this time, if anyone has a question, we have about 6 minutes left. So we'd encourage you to unmute and ask your question.
My question was about the scholarships. you said one for leadership and then the other one, it's through the program. How do we go about like applying for that?
Okay, that's a great question. Actually, we take all of your admit materials, your admission materials, and we make it our decisions based on that. So there is no process. Anyone who is admitted actually automatically is put into the pool for those scholarship opportunities. So we just take a look at our entire cohort as of the May 1 date and say, okay, who here demonstrates those leadership potential or academic potential that we think would get the scholarship. So that's basically how that works. Thanks. Okay, new question. Yes. I don't know how to pronounce this name, Jamimi. You are muted, so if you're talking, you're going to have to unmute yourself. Maybe not.
Hi, no, I don't have a question.
Oh, you don't have a question. Okay, you came up, so I thought that you were trying to speak.
Could I ask a question?
Absolutely. Hi.
Hi. So my question is, I used to teach at K through 12. I used to teach at a private school for about 8 years, but currently I am actually a adjunct faculty at a community college. And it's been about 5 years I've been teaching ESL. So I don't know whether this program actually, because you're going to be looking at the K through 12 school system, is it geared towards that the K through 12 instructors only, or?
That's a really good question. Yeah, we have had I actually chaired a dissertation for someone who worked out of Pasadena Community College. She graduated last year, actually. So we have had people from the community college system who had an academic interest. So her academic interest was actually in the transition from K-12 to the community college system. So she did her research in that area. So it touched on K-12 issues. But yeah, your experience with K-12 would definitely qualify you for the program. I would say that if you have, in terms of your research interest, if your research interest is higher ed only, we do have an EdD as well as a PhD program in higher education that might be a good fit for you. But if your research interest is in K-12 or you want to study that transition from K-12 to higher ed, then this would be a fine program for you to be in.
All right, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I had one more question.
Absolutely.
Sorry. So for dissertation, if you have like an area that you want to study, but you don't have a research question, does the program help you like come up with one, or like how does, like how does that work?
Yeah, Matt, I saw you nodding your head. Why don't you speak to this from the student perspective?
Yeah, that's a great question. This process, it's your study, but you're going to have a chair and you're going to have a methodologist, and there's so much embedded support in this program that you wouldn't be allowed to form a research question that wouldn't be of value to your study. So if you have something in mind, definitely that's great for your study. And if you have a research question in mind you think that ties in, absolutely. But you're going to get some guidance and you're going to get some maybe some tweaking of the language for the question. Like as I went through the process of developing the 2 questions from my study, even after my proposal, the question slightly changed. So there's so much embedded support in this program. I can't say it enough that that's what really helps you get your dissertation is going to be great because it's yours, but also because of the support you receive. So hope that answers your question. You will get a lot of guidance and support on that.
Okay, thank you.
A lot of people, Eileen, don't come with a research question ready-made. So they will generally have a topic that they're interested in. They know they're interested in, something having to do with leadership, something having to do with teaching, co-teaching, special education, what have you. They'll have a topic in mind, but they don't necessarily have their research question ready-made. And even if they think they do, as Matt said, we end up kind of helping them hone that so that it really focuses on something that's researchable, that will add to the field, et cetera, et cetera.
I had a quick question. When you talk about embedded dissertation and dissertation units, what exactly does that look like compared to maybe another program that doesn't have something like that?
Well, that's an easy one I'll take this one. So your very first semester, for example, you have a class that's called Proposal A, where you start actually drafting your chapter 1 of your dissertation. So you have a draft of chapter 1 by the end of your first semester. The next semester you have Proposal B, where you kind of hone chapter 1 and start drafting chapter 2. And then the next semester you have Proposal C, where you are pulling together, really defining chapter 2 and refining chapter 1. So you're actually writing your dissertation during class sessions with professor help. And that continues throughout the program. So you actually, by the end of your 1.5, so that you're at the end of your second fall, you have a proposal meeting. The proposal is that at that point you have drafts, a really good finished draft of chapters 1 through 3. You have a plan for your study, and you basically talk with your research committee and get the go-ahead. You get the green light to actually begin collecting data. So you can start collecting data in the middle of year 2, write up your study during year 3, and there you have it done by the time you are finished with your coursework. So the way it happens traditionally is that you do all your coursework at once, which means that you might do your coursework in 2 years instead of 3. But then after your coursework is done, you basically are told, go do your study and we'll see you when you're done. And you're given a chair, and your chair may check in with you once every few months to say, how's it going? But you really have to try to remember what you learned and put it together and do everything basically on your own. And that was my experience going through the program. And I can see why. I had a lot of support family-wise. I had some significant financial support that allowed me to pull back on my professional responsibilities, which enabled me to do my doctorate or my dissertation. But I can see why for a lot of people that is the stage where they just drop out and aren't able to finish. So this is where we actually provide instruction and support and time to actually do that writing alongside your other coursework. So thanks. I got a question through chat. What's the next step? So the next step is to actually open up an account with admissions. And Nori, if you're still on the call, can you maybe chat everyone with a link to our graduate admissions application? That would be really nice. But thank you. Yes, she will chat everyone with the actual link. So you'll go to our graduate admissions page, and you will just start an application for our program and start pulling stuff up. All of those items that I said were the graduation or the admissions requirements. You'll just pull those in, and once that is complete, it automatically goes to a review process. So America Wheelock is our rep who, she's our representative in admissions who you'd be working with to pull your portfolio together for admission, and you just kind of go from there. All right, any other questions? You can chat, or you can just unmute yourself and we'll field those questions. Matt, I know it's past 1. If you need to go, that's totally fine.
I could hang out if there's any questions.
Okay, thank you. All right, I got a question about cohort size. So Dr. Rosso alluded to this. Our typical cohorts have been around 12. But we tap out. We'll basically say the largest it would be is around 20. We are never going to have a cohort that's higher than that. So we're looking at probably around 15 would be the ideal cohort size. You get a lot of really great conversation that way, but you also are small enough that everyone can really gel together really well. You have that sense of community. and the conversations, everyone gets a voice in the conversation. So we figure at over 20, we're going to kind of start losing some of that sense of a small cohort size. So we can guarantee you're never going to be over that around 20 mark, but they've been around around 12 to 15. Now, if everyone looks at the chat, Nori, thank you for that. She has given the first, she's given a link to our program. So there's information about our program on that link, and then there's a start your application button there, which you can click to just begin the application process. Thank you very much for that, Nori. All right, any other questions? Those of us in education know you have a wait time. So we have a little bit of wait time, and then if we don't have anything else, we will end the info session.
Hi, I just wanted to add in, sorry, I'm Carmen, by the way. I'm the administrative coordinator, but I just wanted to add in, I think there was a question about how long the classes are. And I just wanted to add on to Dr. Kula's comment earlier about the classes are typically 8 to 6, but the longer you're in the program, the shorter your days get. So you're not in there 8 to 6 for all 3 years, but as you move forward in the program and you take fewer units per term, your days get a little bit shorter, but your commitment and the time dedicated to writing your dissertation probably takes up that time, but your class days get a little bit shorter. So you're not in there necessarily from 8 to 6, but you're in class from 8 to 4. And then your dissertation milestone, which is time dedicated to your dissertation, is from like 12 to 3, which you're not in a class session with an instructor. You're meeting with your chair, you're doing interviews and things like that. So your days look different, but you're not necessarily sitting in a classroom or on a computer in Zoom from 8 to 6. So they just look different.
That's good. Thank you. All right. Any other questions? We will wait for maybe 10 or so seconds, 10 to 15 seconds. And then if nothing comes up, we'll say our goodbyes. All right. Well, I'm going to go ahead and call it then. So thank you very much, everyone, for being here. We really appreciate it and appreciate your interest. And I will follow up with all of you. We'll give you a link to this info session so that you can look back at the information if you wish. Also, the links that have been provided in the chat will be in that communication so that you can go back and start your application. Thank you so much for being here. We'll see you hopefully in some fashion, maybe at an interview very soon. All right, take care.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Bye-bye, everybody.